Let's talk about conservatism briefly. Hopefully we talk about it a lot. Paul Kelly in The Australian had an article saying conservatism is in crisis, and this is based on what's happening in Britain. I'll be talking about that later at 10 o'clock with Liz Truss. But are Conservatives in crisis? We've seen Susan Ley come out this week talking about the Teals and the need for the coalition to fight back against the Teals. What does this mean, James? Does this mean she's saying that the coalition needs to become more teal-coloured? Or does it mean they should become away from the Teals?
Well, I don't think it's so much about the fight, you know, over the internal ideology. I mean, the idea that conservatism is in crisis, I think, is a little bit of a misnomer, with all due respect to Paul Kelly, because I think the problem is that not so much the conservatives in crisis, but that conservatives haven't been able to, you know, put in the top roles of their parties. So, you know, Liz Truss, who you're going to speak about very shortly, you know, this is somebody with very sort of green left, liberal Democrat British roots. You know, she was an anti-Thatcher, pro-environment, pro-Remain type, you know. And so, you know, the idea to say that she's an example of conservatism in crisis, I think, is a bit of a misnomer. Now, as far as this...
It is in the sense that we have people who are not real conservatives. We've got imposters who are leading the conservative movement.
Yeah,
I think the crisis
that is exactly
entirely different to what's argued in this article, I've got to say, which goes in all sorts of weird directions, in my opinion. But there's the crisis in this country is that the Conservatives don't know what they stand for and who they are. They've become so enamoured with being a broad church that they've actually lost their ideology and their point of difference.
That's the key point, and it's the bedwetters who have caused the problems in Britain. You've seen wherever Conservatives stand up for strong conservative values, like in Italy,
they win.
Like in America under Trump, they will win. They will win. Sweden.
I mean, the fact Italy's not that much of a surprise, but green left, borderline socialist Sweden electing a centre-right coalition. I mean, you're telling me conservatism is in crisis?
But you know, the word is crisis. Crisis is the key word to this. It's not that conservatism is in crisis, but that conservatives get brought in when things get so bad that there is a crisis. That's what happened in Sweden. That's what happened in Italy. That's what happened in the U.S. under Trump, post-Obama.
And that's what's going to happen again in the US.
And that will happen again in the US, and that's what will have to happen. I am very sad to say, I fear, in Australia, that Australia is going to have to go so far down the road of green lunacy, economic dislocation, self-impoverishment as a result of all of these policies, and then who gets called in to clean up the mess? Conservatives.
And if you take the Nationals as a microcosm, and we can ask Matt about this in a second, but, you know, I was pleased to hear David Littleproud coming out and saying, oh, you can't cut methane like this. It will, you know, it's the end of the Aussie barbecue. Well, sorry, David Littleproud, this is just simply an extension of you embracing net zero. It always was. So there's no point now. And this is what, unfortunately, the bedwetters within the coalition and the Nats do all the time. After the horse is bolted, they go, oh, we shouldn't have done that. No. We did tell you at the time, don't open that stable door because you will ruin it for yourselves as well as for us.
As Matt Canavan, who we're going to speak to shortly, told us on Sunday morning after the election that they lost, which we knew they were going to lose, the electorate hasn't changed.
No.
It's the Liberal Party that changed. 3 years ago, they fought the climate change election and they won the unwinnable election. No one thought they could win that one because they prioritised pricing and reliability over emissions.
Exactly.
This time around, they signed up to net zero. They had no argument. Cost of living was the biggest policy area that people cared about, and the Liberals had nothing different to offer that was compelling.
And therefore they lost. And if you don't argue against climate change, you are no better. Than this Just Stop Oil mob who vandalised a Van Gogh painting at the National Gallery in London a couple of days ago. So they threw soup all over the famous Van Gogh sunflowers painting. We've got a bit of a clip here. We'll just show you that, then we'll talk about it.
Security. Hang on.
security.
This is just insane. This is one of those priceless paintings that they have at this museum. There's no guard there. There's no patrons. I mean, if I was there, I would have tackled these people. Who's letting these people walk in with Just Stop Oil t-shirts? Maybe that's your first clue that these people aren't exactly art lovers. Now, have a look at this, so if we can run a bit of this here. These guys stuck themselves to the wall, and they were there for Christ knows how long. But then have a look at this footage, because this is how the French deal with protesters who glue themselves to roads. They don't care about, getting a little nail polish remover. They just yank these guys off. And this guy is doing the biggest dive you see this side of the World Cup.
That's hilarious.
Sympathetic. Look at the cop looking at him.
Rip the skin off. Oh, that's hilarious.
I got an ouchie.
Oh, no. Hey,
That
I
is
glued
hilarious.
myself to the road. Oh, no.
That is really funny. But to your point, maybe when they saw the T-shirt, they thought it was a Watercolours Lovers Association.
Yes,
Just Stop Oils.
Painting, yes.
Just Stop Oils.
Yeah.
But this Van Gogh sunflower, we predicted this. Sarah Dudley on the cover of the Spectator Australia 2 years ago predicted that sunflowers would be the target of these sorts of cultural cleansers, of these decolonisers, of these kind of leftists. And we actually had the cover of Sunflowers there, which we're going to put up in a second. And we saw, this is a war not only climate change, not only against oil, this is a war against Western civilization. They're targeting these things specifically. To James's point, one of the most valuable paintings, not only financially, but also, James, in terms of culture.
Yes.
And this is a war against our culture, and these people are choosing these targets deliberately. It's they could go and vandalise anything, but they're vandalising our history.